So today we are talking about mega age statement Macallan. Well, why is it mega age statement? Well, we're specifically going to look at the 30-year-old bottles that Macallan has produced from the late 1990s all the way through to the present day. And why do I say they're a mega age statement? Well, they represent only 1.25, so the 30-year-old age statement whiskey represents only 1.25% of the entire Scotch whisky market. Now, even though there's only a 5-year difference between a 25-year-old and 30-year-old whiskey, 30-year-old whiskey is nearly twice as uncommon in terms of its release volume from distilleries. So it makes it's not a big step up, it's only 5 years, but this kind of where you get to all this sort of nonsense about exponential growth with casks and age. It's very low at the start and then it speeds up and ramps up the older the whiskies get. So, Macallan, why? Well, we've got a load of them here today, but Macallan are also the OGs of the 30-year-old age statement, and they were one of the first, if not the first, to release 30-year-old. And that came in the form of this, the Macallan 30-year-old blue label. Now, this was first released in the late 1990s and ran until around 2002. Now, we found the earliest recorded price as being about £195 when it came out, and we'll put the Whisky Exchange link up on the screen now from the very, very early 2000s. And the earliest auction price we can find for this is 2006, where it was selling for £279. Now, this is one of my favourite bottles of whiskey of all time. This blue colour, as you'll see, becomes synonymous with the 30-year-old age statements from Macallan. So on the cover, we've got a very obvious declaration, 30-year-old matured in sherry oak, exactly what Macallan are known and renowned for. Inside, you've got this stupid straw that they insisted on putting in everything everywhere. And then we've got a really nice, beautiful bottle of Macallan single malt whiskey, 30-year-old. And just look at the colour of it. The colour is absolutely fantastic. So this is like the OG of the Macallan 30-year-olds. And if you're really interested in taking a deep dive into this particular bottle, we did this in part of our Core Range Kings video, which is on the channel. Now, this was 200 quid 20 years ago, and it's now sort of, this one is on the shop for just under £10,000. At auction, I think the record price is £8,600 hammer, so about 9,600 gross. So, take your time, people. These whiskies are very good for very long-term investments. Now, that was the first 30-year-old iteration, that lovely blue box. It was from the early 2000s. But then in 2002, Macallan started to reinvigorate their packaging with sort of a new redesign. And the sherry oak was updated in 2004, but then only ran for another 2 years. It only ran from 2004 to 2006 in this redesign. You can see that it's gone into a crappy cardboard box, but they've kept that blue theme going with it. And these are really, really rare bottles if you can get hold of them. And they're still £4 or £5 at auction if you can. Now, moving on from this, what they decided to do, Macallan, was that they had seemingly ran out of pure sherry casks to keep a 30-year-old core range offering open and current. So what they did in about 2004, the Fine Oak series was launched, and there were 3 iterations of the Fine Oak, but the Fine Oak is basically a lean away from pure sherry seasoned whiskey to ones that have worked in European and American oak, including ex-bourbon casks as well. So there are 3 iterations of the Fine Oak 30-year-old. You've got the 30-year-old Fine Oak that ran from 2004 to 2008. You then semantically change it to the Fine Oak triple cask matured, which is when they start explicitly stating that it was from sherry seasoned European and American oak and ex-bourbon American oak casks as well. And then in 2012, they reinvigorated the line again to have the 30-year-old Fine Oak triple cask, and that ran from 2012 to 2018. Now, these 30-year-olds are all significantly cheaper than the 30-year-old sherry oaks, and for good reason in a way, because Macallan are not necessarily known for their use of other casks other than sherry. You go back to the original marketing days of Macallan in the 1980s and 1990s, and their USP was that they were selling the bloody life out of sherry casks. So these Fine Oak casks, yes, it was easier for them to make because you could diversify their cask inventory, but they don't hold their value in the same way that the sherry casks do over a long period of time. So fine, add them to your collection if you like them, but if you can afford to, always go for the sherry oak rather than the standard oak. Now, in the mid-2010s, we saw Macallan take another stab at reinventing the sherry oak. So from about mid-2010s to sort of 2018, this was the new king in town. This is the Macallan 30-year-old, and again, this was exclusively matured in sherry oak casks. You're starting to see this use of the engraving on the boxes, and again, when you open up inside, we see the wonderful return of the bloody annoying straw in there, but also you can see this blue. So let's take it out of here. You get a really nice presentation. You see these wax capsules, again, first appeared on the Elky series, and it's a really nice presentation. And again, the price at retail had jumped significantly at this point, but I do feel like this presentation does warrant a bit of an increase in cost. But again, you'll still see that you're on the old style foil capsule over these cork tops, rather than the ones that come out sort of slightly later. Now, this revival, you know, this is sort of like the Bob Dalgarno sort of era, where you've got the whiskey tints, and then the whiskey tints, we're going to do a video about that coming up soon, but the whiskey tints was basically a way for them to sort of say how dark the whiskey was, and obviously all naturally coloured. It wasn't something that was particularly successful, I don't think, even though it's used on the Fine and Rare series, but they have moved away from it, which would suggest that I don't think it was that, you know, useful in marketing. But again, it gets some lovely nice sort of like handwritten paper elements there, and it all looks jolly nice. And I tell you what, one of these on your collection, let me just get these stupid little fasteners down. Let's get there in. There you go. It's a lovely box, it's a lovely presentation, and we've got that one on the shop. It's about £5,700. But then obviously, if you're sort of newish to whiskey collecting, sort of from the mid-20s, 2010s onwards, in 2018, boom, these are the ones that you will probably know and remember. So this is essentially the new 30-year-old. It was started in 2018, and there's been like a release every year for it. And this was the first of the new era of the Macallan. So this 2018 is a significant date for Macallan. Why? Well, obviously they opened up their new distillery, didn't they? Their Triggers Broom, new distillery. Don't worry, it's all the same. Don't worry, don't question it. We're going to question it soon. But this is the packaging that you'll sort of know and sort of remember if you sort of see any of the Red Collection. And the Red Collection shares a lot of similarities with this 30-year-old collection. So we start to see the better engraving. We see lovely oak cases. We've got engraving on the top here. And then here inside, we've moved away from the blue, the synonymous blue with the 30-year-old, and we've got these nice sort of magnet closures on everything. Let's put the price up because we've got magnets in there. We've thankfully lost the stupid straw though, people. No more messing up my desk. And you know, these bottles are very nice, but you can kind of see now that we've moved to this capsule style, this plastic capsule style with your little hologram on there. And you know what? They are attractive bottles, big step bases. And this is sort of like proprietary glass that Macallan use across their range now. In here, you'll see that we've now moved to sort of, instead of the tint of the whiskey, it's just dark mahogany, which is obviously much easier to replicate across lots of different casks, because you don't actually have to sort of match this exact same tint every time. You just have to match the same rough colour, which is dark mahogany. And you know what? If it's a few tints up or down, is anybody really going to notice? So again, we've got a 2021 and this one, the 2022, on the shop at the moment for just under £5,000. And they are really nice bottles. And again, you can build a vertical for your child should you want to. Now, the other 30-year-old, let me just scroll away here, that you often see, or will see from 2021 onwards, is this. And this is the double cask, and started in 2021. And it's similar to the fine oaks, but it's a mixture of two casks, sort of I think it's an American oak and European oak casks, and these are milder than the sherry casks apparently. So really nice. Again, exact same presentation as the 30-year-old sherry oaks. Lovely magnets, so of course the price can go up, but just look at these hinges. Like, you get some crap hinges on boxes, but these are quite nice. You know, the whole presentation with these is really spot on. Bizarrely, these have gone to a blue colour. So on this here, you can see the blue. We've got a bit of blue coming back, which is a reference to the early 30-year-olds, as you already know. But that should be on the sherry oak, in my opinion, and not the double cask. But anyway, these are sort of slightly more affordable versions than the sherry oaks. And again, you're getting a whopping massive age statement, really nice presentation. But, you know, for me, Macallan is sherry oak matured. And if you're going to start collecting these, my advice would be just to stick to the sherry oaks and enjoy the sherry oaks. And there you go. There's a quick wrap up of all of Macallan's 30-year-old sherry oak and non-sherry oak bottlings that have ever been released.